the money. No big blinds. We just go straight up. Minimum bet 50. Sound good?
50's fine.
Cool. All right. So we'll start the round of betting with James. You good, man?
Yeah.
All right. So it's really good to see you guys. It's really good to hang out with you guys and kind of talk a little bit. Because I've been meaning to talk to you guys about something. Like, have you guys noticed that, like, young, and when I say young, I more so mean amateurs that are just kind of getting started. They're people who are hobbyists who really enjoy doing camera work. Yeah, me too. Doing camera work or doing some sort of activity that's creative, whether it be Photoshop work, whether it be Flash, whether it be video editing or photography. They don't really know how to come on a set and just blend in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever experienced that?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. You know, as far as like, you know, you hear the expression "staying in your lane," that kind of a thing. You know, just I guess acknowledging when you're called on set, you're probably there to fulfill a particular role, and when you're doing that, then you know you don't have to really focus on trying to get in anyone's way or get out of anyone's way because you know what it is that you're there to do.
Exactly. It's about observing what is happening on set. It's about coming in. The first, you know, it's your bet, sir. Your first reaction is to want to try to do something, and as an amateur, and let me get involved and let me help out. And so you start asking questions. Minimum bet is 50.
Yep.
And so
Get on it.
So money, man. And so I guess the bet is with you then. Oh well, let's burn the turn. Hold on a second. Those are nice cards.
Pretty good.
Okay. So getting back to what I'm saying is, you know, some people don't know how to just come into the set and just observe what's going on. I mean, part of being the part is looking the part, and a lot of times you can learn a lot by not immediately asking questions.
Sure.
I mean, and that's like the perfect time where you have to realize that you must first acquire that skill of observation, and sometimes, you know, acquiring that skill, all it takes is for you just to kind of sit back, take a look at what's going on in a particular situation, or, you know, when you're on the set, just kind of learning new skills. If you want to learn new skill, just sit back and look. Just sit back and take it all in and take a look at what's going on. Because I know that's how I learn most of the things I know, is just by kind of just, you know, being on a set and just kind of, you know, observing people who are masters, observing people who are, you know, above me, and just kind of, you know, taking it from there. You know what I'm saying? So
I think even to kind of add into that, you know, the idea of acquiring a new skill is almost like the steps of acquiring new technology. And a lot of the times with observation, I do believe that old technology is the best technology in terms of using your brain in new ways, almost, is what I mean. And so we have all this technology on a daily basis as opposed to asking directly and trying to figure out, you know, hey man, why did you do this and why did you set that up? You know, you have in your hand an infinite amount of possibilities and answers because you have your cell phone, your smartphone with you at all time. Like the way that you can use that new technology now to figure out what you need to figure out, even if it's just kind of sitting back and observing and hey, I took note of what you did and I'm just gonna make a quick jot a quick note down. And you know, I kind of
absolutely like processes. Like it's so funny. Like we have Google at our fingertips
all the time.
all the times. How often do you get on set with someone or you get on the job with someone and they ask you, you give them an assignment. Like for example, you work at, you do a lot of assignment work with broadcasts, okay? Yeah. And you came up through doing like actual camera work.
Right.
Sometimes you had to take a news van out and do some stuff. You know, if someone tells you, hey, I need you to cover the Peachtree Road Race, you don't immediately say, hey, where's the Peachtree Road Race? You Google it.
Absolutely.
Right.
But how often do you get involved with young people and not just young people, I keep saying young people, but you can be 35 and still be an amateur in the game.
Amateur in a lot of things, you know?
Yeah. I think when you're speaking on that about, okay, let me observe, let me gather some of these pieces of information that are going to empower me on set or on stage or wherever you're at, it really is about not being so quick to fold, to use poker expression,
Speaking of being too quick to fold, you want to bet before you fold? Hold on to these cards, and you're playing for free first. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Okay. So, just using those tools and saying, okay, there's information here. I can kind of use some of this to help me along and not be so quick to say, hey, I give up, I don't know, but just kind of using some of those tools first and foremost.
Right, exactly, man. And, like going back to the technology, you were saying, you have it right there. You can open up your phone, open up a notes program, and observe what your manager or who your supervisor is, or someone, maybe you're just watching, you can watch a behind the scenes video of a music video that you see being made. Watch what the director does. Watch what they do from the beginning of the production to the end of the production. Look at what the PAs, the production assistants, because that's the position you're going to start out in. Watch what they're doing and jot down what they're doing. What are they wearing? What do they have in their hands? They have headsets. They have clipboards. And that way you can either attain the tools of the trade or start to understand what you need to model your resume after.
And even with that, just kind of, you also bring in a new level of air to yourself because you're well researched about that particular director. If you're working on a director's set and you sit and you go through some of his older work, you can kind of pick up cues that he does, and it's like trends that he kind of frequents and goes back to in his work. And it's just impressive to come on set and it's like, you know what, he likes his lighting this way, and I know that because I've studied his lighting. And so you're kind of helpful without having to say, hey man, you want me to set the lighting here? It's just that approach to it is always going to set you apart, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about setting yourself apart.
All the time.
What in this day and age, the technology is so ubiquitous. It's so easy to go to a Micro Center and buy a Canon camera and buy a quick little lighting kit and then go on and look at a YouTube video. So what happens in this day and age where you have technology so affordable and so available to everyone and everyone's knowledgeable about it, what happens is the playing field is flattened. We all have the tools of the trade. We all have a Mac. We all have a DSLR. We all have Photoshop. So what can you do? And and the pitfall of not learning to observe and really gleaming the skill of being an observer first is that you don't develop the ability to critically think. Observation, it builds your ability to be a critical thinker. And being a critical thinker is what sets you apart. What they want to know when you go into that job interview, and trust me, I've been there. They want to know, listen, I don't care how many jobs you've had. I don't care how many degrees you got. I don't care how many years you've been in the field. I want to know that if something happens, if the crap hits the fan, you're going to come up and say, listen, I may not have the answer, but I know how to get the answer. And I'm not afraid of a challenge.
Now the flip side to that though is you're taking so much time to observe and you get kind of caught up in the observation. See, you get so in your head that you overanalyze things, you don't actually get anything done. So, because that happens to me sometimes. I tend to overanalyze and just kind of, and it takes me forever to get a project done.
Right.
And I just have to kind of, get out of my head.
Yeah.
Okay, I've already done the initial observation. I already done what I need to do, and I just need to go for it and make a decision after the observation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and that's all. That's what it's about. It's just you gotta observe, you gotta use that skill, and then make a decision and keep going.
Yeah, and I think the application of that is that the observation has to be relevant to what it is that you're setting your sights on.
Wow. You just said, say that again.
Your observation has to be relevant to what it is that you're setting your sights on goal-wise. Because if you get there and let's say you're preparing for the shoot, you're in pre-production phase, or you're in pre-production for whatever stage production is going on. If you're sitting there and you're kind of observing and gathering information and amassing your tools for the purpose of something that's not even really in the scope of the project, then you've wasted all this time because your observation isn't goal-oriented. So when I think about the application of the observation, it's twofold. We're all technical people in some capacity. We're all creative people in some capacity. So if we're observing on a level of how can this sharpen me technically, making sure that I have all the tools of the trades, how can I apply this observation from an artistic standpoint, then that's when the magic happens, as they say. You're bringing that technical merit, you're bringing that artistic side, and really applying it based on these things that you've observed, based on the trends that you've seen in the industry.
It's crazy. It's crazy what you just asserted, because what you basically just said is what a lot of people misconstrue observation to be. People tend to associate observation with being introvert rather than extrovert, or being introspective rather than being expressive.
I see.
Or somewhat gregarious. And that's a lot of big words, but what I'm trying to say is people don't understand that observation is an active It's an active activity. You have to be aware that I'm going to go into this situation. I don't quite understand what's going to happen to me. I mean, I had a situation recently where I've had a career change and I've started a new position. And I went from being the techie to being a director. And so now I'm in charge of my portion of the business, and not just setting up the technology, not just booking my freelancers, but also being in charge of the bottom line. And so as a result, I had to really quickly give my new employer and my supervisor this feeling that I hired the right person.
Right.
This guy is ready. He may not have been... He's been a manager before, he's been a team leader before, but is he a director? And so the first thing I had to do is I said, you know what, I'm going to go into this and I'm not going to act like I know everything, and I'm not going to try to execute from day one. I'm going to come in and I'm not going to try to oversell myself and say, well, I've been doing this for so many years and I worked at the Cunningham Center and I worked this. I'm not trying to do all that. I'm just going to come in. Whatever you think of me, I'm going to let you think that, because if you underestimate me, that's great for me, because now your expectations of me are low.
Right,
You just did me a favor.
Yeah.
So then coming in and saying, I'm gonna look at what this person is doing. I'm gonna take notes. I mean, it may not be written notes, it may be mental notes, but it's an active process. And so, wow, I mean, that's profound that you bring that up. You got to be an observer. It has to be an intentional thing every single day. To look at the field that we're in, and to allow yourself not necessarily to be influenced by it, but to understand the trends that are happening.
Right. And to speak on that situation that you described with the new hire, we're always kind of a new hire when it comes to the freelance world, especially. You're coming into and out of a relationship with these business associates and with these clients. And so as such, it's such a powerful statement to be able to say, hey, I get where you're coming from. I've seen what you do. I've watched, and I'm able to integrate myself into that, as opposed to just saying, well, when I did it over here, this is how we did things. When I did this project over there, this is how we did things. They might say, that's well and good. I've seen your work, great. But can you work with this, is the kind of question that they're setting up in their mind.
Yeah, and another thing that I realized with observation is that you have to be able to observe yourself. You have to be able to observe what you do. Also, just to know that, you need to observe yourself, so hey, maybe I need to work on this. Maybe I need to work on that. It's something that you just haven't been thinking about, and you've gotten kind of complacent, and you may not notice that you're kind of slipping in this area. You might want to
brush up on
this skill. And so it's so much, we think so much of outside observation and not so much of observing ourselves inside and what's going on.
It's kind of to add to that point, it's kind of a thing where we have to learn how we learn. Some people are visual learners. Some people learn by reading. Some people learn by doing. And so when you're observing your own mental patterns and you're understanding that, I better understand things when I watch a video, so let me just watch this video. Or I better understand things when I roll my sleeves up and just kind of get out there and do it.
Get in it,
Knowing that it's always going to give you the foot ahead in any direction that you're going in, because observing yourself first is going to put you in the position to where you understand what you're seeing in anyone else. Like you said, we're all, as freelancers, every single time you have a new boss. I mean, every single time it's a very new. So from the initial email that you may get, from the initial telephone consult, you're observing right then and there, this person's quirks and what the strengths and the weaknesses.
Best
about
way to
their business.
communicate with them, those kinds of things.
And
yeah.
using, I mean, of course, here again, it goes back to technology. Using new technology to kind of keep a hold of all of that, but mainly just knowing when and what you're observing and how to use that as new information. I mean, it puts you miles and above each and every time, I believe.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we're saying that what building your observation skills does is it makes you more aware. It raises your awareness of the industry, awareness of trends that are arising and changing the industry, and awareness of self. Because when you are aware of the things that you do, it makes you a successful person. Success to me is the result of being able to recognize phenomena, recognize that something is happening, whether it be inside yourself or outside within the industry, seeing what that thing is, playing around with it inside the most important technology that you own. Okay? And then saying, how can I allow what's happening to influence me, make me better, and then my better self, my better awareness impact the industry.
Yeah.
Because when you figure out how to do that and you can show people, hey, this is what, perfect example. When I was recently told when I was working on my resume, I was told when someone who was looking at my resume to change it up, they said something that you're doing a lot of when you record the jobs that you've been at before, you talk about what your duties were and you talk about what your assignments were, but you don't talk about what you accomplished while you were at an organization. How did you make the organization better every single day? So, and that's really what this is about.
Right.
We're taught to put resumes together and it to be some sort of cabinet that has these nice chalices that show your accomplishments. Yet the way we write resumes is like, I did this and I did this and here's what I can do and here's my skill set. How about I increased the sales of audiovisual pieces by 10%? I took our team's editing bay from it being a 2-bay to being a 5-bay. I took my conference center from being this place where we just had carts to being this place where we had full out workstations. I took my clients from being the type that just want a basic music video package and I sold them a short film, or took their wedding to a place of being a cinematic adventure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and without that self-awareness style of observation that James was talking about, you won't even know. You'll look back and say, okay, wait a minute, what did I do? But it really takes that self-aware person to really be able to say, okay, today I did this. Today this was my accomplishment. And here's how it fit within the greater goal of the project within the organization.
Man, it's just incredible because you have to be self-aware. You have to understand what is going on, because if you don't, what happens is if you don't learn to observe what's happening, become aware because of the observation, then you don't have the ability to repeat success.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like throwing darts. The best dart, the people who know how to play darts, is they understand the muscles. They understand the twitch muscles. They understand the visual acuity it takes. They understand where they need to aim. They understand their own handicaps. They know if I hit it this way, I tend to let it go over this direction. So I need to notch myself over so that when I hit it, it may curve around, but it's gonna hit bullseye every time.
Yeah.
But if you just sit out there and say, well, I got some darts, I'm just gonna hit. Anywhere is going to be great for you. You're going to be like, well, I'm hitting something. I'm at least on the board. But what happens is you spend, and how many of us have done this? How many of us have spent the first like 4 or 5 years in our careers having these small successes, but these huge failures that you take one great step forward and you take 2 steps back. And you're like, why is it that I keep, how 2 steps forward,
That's right.
2 steps back. But yeah, I mean, you get in a situation where you don't understand, like, why can't I get the client that I had last time? What is it that I'm doing? Well, you got to ask yourself, what are you doing to attract the types of clients that don't appreciate your work? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
well, you know what we're doing. We're not playing
Yeah,
any. Let's get back to it, man.
Who's got the
This
best?
is you, man.
Is
It's
it
on
on?
you. I pulled it already, so it's
Okay.
on you. We've been waiting on that for a minute.
I don't like these cards.
Let me know.
Let's start over.
All right, I got it.